Welcome to Ziba Academy. D3.js tutorial. This code creates a simple HTML web page layout for visualizing Excel data. It includes a div with the class heading that contains an h1 element, to display the title representing Excel data with two data sets and AP tag with the text ziba.academy. Below that, there is a div with the ID, chart container, which serves as a container for the chart, and inside it, another div with the class tooltip used for displaying interactive data tips when users hover over chart elements. This code snippet uses D3.js to select and initialize elements for data visualization. The line const container equals D3.select, hashtag chart container, selects the HTML element with the ID chart container, which serves as the main container for the chart. The variable chart data is initialized to null, indicating that the data to be visualized has not yet been loaded or assigned. The line const tooltip equals D3.select. Tooltip selects the div element with the class tooltip, which will be used to display contextual information, like data details, when users interact with the chart. This code snippet is part of setting up an SVG-based chart using D3.js. First, container.selectAll, SVG.remove, clears any existing SVG elements within the container to ensure a fresh drawing space. Then, const SVG equals container.append, SVG, creates a new SVG element inside the container for rendering graphics. The lines const width equals svg.node. .getBounding client rect, .width, and const height equals svg.node, .getBounding client rect, .height, retrieve the current dimensions of the SVG element, which are crucial for responsive and accurate chart drawing. The margin object defines padding around the chart area to accommodate axes, labels, and titles, with top, right, bottom, and left margins specified. Finally, inner width and inner height calculate the drawable area inside the SVG. This code sets up a group element, G, inside the SVG for plotting. It then extracts the headers from the first row of the data array, which likely contains labels like category, dataset1, dataset2. This code defines two D3.js band scales for positioning elements along the x-axis in a grouped or stacked bar chart. The x0 scale maps the categories array to a range from 0 to inner width, with padding to space out the categories, effectively creating distinct sections for each category across the chart's width. The x1 scale is a secondary band scale nested within each category, mapping dataset names to the bandwidth allocated by x0, with additional padding for spacing between datasets within each category. This code calculates the maximum value, ymax, across all datasets and categories in formatted data by finding the highest data point among all dataset values for each category, ensuring the y-axis scale encompasses all data. This code adds axes to a D3 chart. The bottom x-axis is created by appending a group element, G, translated down to the chart's height, inner height, then calling D3.axisBottom, x0, to generate the axis based on the x0 scale. The axis labels are rotated -25 degrees for better readability, aligned to the end, and styled with a dark fill color. Similarly, the y-axis is added on the left side by appending another G and calling D3.axisLeft, y scale, to generate the y-axis based on the y scale. The tick labels on the y-axis are styled with a dark fill color to improve visibility. This code creates group bar charts within an SVG using D3.js. It first binds formatted data to group elements, G, with class layer, positioning each group horizontally based on the category using x0. Inside each group, it maps over dataset names to generate individual data points with keys, values, and categories, then appends rect elements for each data point, setting their x position with x1, d.key, y position with y scale, d.value, width with x1.bandwidth, and height based on the scaled value, filling each with a color from color scheme. Event listeners are added for interactivity. On mouse over, the bar's opacity decreases and a tooltip appears displaying the category, key, and value. On mouse move, the tooltip follows the cursor. On mouse out, the bar's opacity restores, and the tooltip fades out. This code adds textual labels to an SVG chart. The first part appends a text element with class title, positioned horizontally at the center of the chart, width /2, and vertically at half the top margin, margin.top/2, serving as the chart's title. The second part appends another text element with class axis label, centered horizontally, x equals width /2, and placed near the bottom of the chart, y equals height, 20, with its text set to the first header from the headers array, acting as the label for the x-axis. This code adds a y-axis label and a legend to the SVG chart. The y-axis label is created with a text element, positioned at x equals margin.left and y equals height /2, then rotated -90 degrees to display vertically along the y-axis. Its text is set to the second header from the headers array, helping users identify the data dimension represented on the y-axis. The legend is constructed within a G group, positioned near the top right corner of the chart by translating it horizontally, width, margin.right, 120, and vertically, margin.top. For each item in dataset names, it appends a small colored rectangle, rect, filled with the corresponding color from color scheme, and a text label, text, placed next to it to identify the dataset, with styling for readability. This code defines a fetchData function that retrieves an Excel file named dummy.xlsx using the fetch API, converts the response into an array buffer, and then processes it with the xlsx library to read the workbook. It selects the first sheet in the workbook, converts its data to a JSON array, with headers as the first row, and assigns this data to the variable chart data. Finally, it calls the drawChart function, passing the parsed data to generate a chart. This code adds an event listener to the window object that listens for the resize event, which occurs whenever the browser window is resized.